Oh, for fun. There we go. Right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Folks, here we are. It is 2024. And well, as you know, season 3 is concluding. But as you know, I am your host of the Soul Sessions. With me today is the man about the disco, but apparently he's a man about the raffle. Apparently he can't get the color right for some weird reason. Why do people think that? But hey, he's back again. Alan Smith of Discovery Wrestling. Welcome back, my friend.
Thanks for having me back.
Well, hey, Alan, it's an absolute pleasure, my friend. But obviously, as I've said, you are returning back here, and it's a pleasure to have you back. Honestly, true pleasure. But we're in a new year. 2023 is behind us. I want to know, Alan, reflecting on 2023, what has it meant for you?
In terms of the wrestling, it was another great year for Discovery in terms of just some of the events that we were putting on, some of the matches that we put on, some of the originality that we've been producing over the past year. Some of the highlights, including getting back to Portobello Town Hall in November, which was huge for me personally because I wrestled in Portobello Town Hall many years ago. Granted, it was in front of a very small audience at the time, but being there now, bringing Discovery back there, given all the classic matches that we've had in Discovery that have taken place at Portobello Town Hall, to finally have gotten back there after all these years was probably the highlight of the year for myself, and knowing now that we have somewhere else that Discovery can call home going into 2024, knowing that we can go back to Portobello Town Hall, that the community have really welcomed us back. It was a very kind of special moment last year.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, I remember when you mentioned, in your last appearance about wanting to go back to that town hall and having so much memories about it. But how did it all come about? Was it just the magic of the timing, or how did you get back to Portobello?
Well, it must have been about 5 years ago now that we were supposed to be in Portobello, and then there were structural issues at the building, and we got the message about 4 weeks before our event to say we're having to close the building because of the structural issues, and that was that. It was so sudden, and we had to move that event elsewhere in a short period of time. And the hall remained shut for a good number of years before there was this big community effort in Portobello to get the hall reopened. They got in touch with us fairly early on because we'd been there recently at that time, and basically said, if we get the hall open again, would you bring wrestling back to Portobello Town Hall? And absolutely jumped at that. So we followed their efforts as they were bringing their bid together to try and get the hall out of from the council back into community hands, and they've done great stuff. The work that they've done, being a local community group, all the fundraising they've done, all the hard work they've put in to restore the town hall to what we remember it as being, to have the structural issues all fixed, and it looks like it's thriving. I know it's just had its pantomime season as well, and it's a very, very busy hall now. So it's good. It's great that we do have another venue like this open to us, because I know we've spoken before about the challenges in Edinburgh when it comes to finding a decent sized venue for wrestling, something that suits wrestling. We used to have so many options available to us, but buildings close, venues close, and now finally we've got something reopening, and it's something that we hope to keep coming back to time after time.
Hi, Alan, I would truly love to see it, my friend. Seeing wrestling thrive, especially the wrestling that you can see outside your very window, is great to see. It just means so much to the community and the wrestling scene in general, because the UK wrestling scene in itself in 2023, oh boy, what a time it has been. So many great things have happened, and I want to get your thoughts on some of them, Alan. So first of all, TNA, well, formerly Impact, coming over and doing some shows, some gut checks as well. I want to know from yourself, my friend, as a Scottish promoter, seeing that big company come, want to pick up some talent and running shows, what does it mean to you?
Well, I think more so for the wrestlers involved who got the opportunity to take part in the gut check. A lot of them came away from the gut check knowing a lot of the wrestlers who took part. They came back with some feedback. They took part, and it was just something for them to help them develop. And there was a lot of Discovery involvement with that as well. A lot of our guys placed very well in the top 10 in the gut check. So it's brilliant for them, great confidence booster for those wrestlers. They get that feedback, they can take it on board now. We know that these companies want to keep coming back to the UK because there's a big audience here for wrestling. There is a huge love for wrestling, and you saw it from AEW in London in August. Now they want to come back. WWE obviously bring tours 2 or 3 times a year now to the UK, and I'm sure TNA Impact will want to do the same, given the love that they received when they came back last year.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I know I've had so many wrestlers on talk about the memories of TNA, the old 6-sided ring, people like Gail King and Awesome Kong, AJ Styles, X Division, that whole time period. Obviously, it's very interesting for myself because I wasn't watching wrestling at that time period, and hearing about why it's so special and why it's so drawing and enticing to watch. I mean, Alan, why do you think that time period of TNA is so fond upon for many?
I think it's because it was different. You spoke about the 6-sided ring, you speak about the X Division. These things made it exciting to watch because it was stuff that was not happening elsewhere. It was stuff that you weren't seeing elsewhere on television. And all of a sudden you've got, guys like Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, the rest of the X Division doing these amazing things, these amazing matchups that you weren't getting anywhere. And that's what drew a lot of people in. It drew myself into watching TNA back in the day, I guess. And it was just, I guess, it provided an alternative. And that's one of the things I think most companies should strive for, is to try and be innovative, come up with their own concepts, come up with their own ideas, try and set themselves apart from what everyone else is doing. And at that time period, TNA certainly did that. But then, of course, they moved to the 4-sided ring and they moved to focusing on other talents as well. And that's, I guess, where a lot of interest kind of was lost. But certainly that time period with that X Division and the 6-sided ring, that's what set them apart.
Of course, absolutely. And obviously, there was a bit of a hazy period, interest being lost and, switching networks and all that very, very quickly. But now it seems like it's really on the thrive. Obviously, we mentioned going back to the TNA name this January for their pay-per-view and new titles as well. Look, I love a bit of a title, as people can see behind me. My wallet is very much empty. But I want to know from yourself, Alan, with these new TNA titles, do you want to see maybe some of the classic designs come back, or maybe a modern reinvention?
I'm always a fan of classic designs. I like, I know companies like to change their championships and the look of the championships every few years, but I think there's something special about keeping the original designs of championships. For me, I think we might have spoken about this last time. My favorite championship is the Winged Eagle, WWF Winged Eagle, because that was what I grew up with. That's who I watched at the time. That's who my champions were when I was growing up. The Ultimate Warriors, Hulk Hogan, Sergeant Slaughters, these guys who had the Winged Championship. That's what I remember as a kid, and that kind of nostalgia sticks with you. You look at all the different designs throughout the years of for example, the WWF Championship, WWE Championship. But for me, anytime I see the Winged Eagle, for me that was the championship. So I think there's a lot to be said about keeping these original designs.
No, absolutely. I mean, hey, I've seen some of the history, that those TNA tag belts as well that were gold and all that last for the longest time. Oh, they'd be a beauty. X Division, maybe even calling back the old NWA TNA X Division. It's a beauty in itself, very beautiful. The white knockouts, but there's one belt I really would love to see back. That TNA belt that, like Magnus, AJ Styles held, and Bobby Lashley, that's like the big, massive plate and alongside. I think pretty much Kenny Omega held that during his belt collector days, because I think that is a beautiful belt. I mean, hey, look, if we go back to the Global Force belts, right, it might be a bit funny for like 2 shows, but let's go back to something like that. But I mean, why do you think as well, Alan, you mentioned the Winged Eagle there, and I know TNA kind of had their own version of the Winged Eagle before the belt I just mentioned there. Do you think that's maybe the belt they should go for?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think every different belt and every different design will have a kind of different kind of feeling for individual fans. I can only speak for myself. I mean, yeah, I think, in terms of belts that stick out in the memory, you're talking about the one that Magnus had, the one that AJ Styles had. I think when they moved to that championship, at that period for TNA, perhaps was when they were really skyrocketing, and that will perhaps be the championship that most people will go back to as being the championship or the design that they had. So, again, it just comes down to each individual fan and time period that you were really into and what you remember and what you remember as being your championship.
Very true indeed, obviously. And we mentioned the gut check there, and many who I've had on and have featured on Discovery went to it as well. So I want to propose a little scenario, maybe a bit of a cheeky one, but let's say, Alan, Scott D'Amore comes up to you and says, Alan, I see what you've done here and I love it. Great environment, people love it, and great wrestlers as well. Give me a male, a female, and a tag team that I think I should sign right now. Sell them to me.
Oh my God. Now this is really difficult because it's like picking your favorite child, isn't it? It's like
cheeky. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. The ones you don't name will then complain that you didn't name them. Goodness. In terms of, I think female at right now it's got to be Emersyn Jayne. Absolutely making her American debut over New Year there with GCW. Some insane stuff she was doing, judging by all the clips I've seen online, and obviously she wrestled for Impact during their tour in the UK recently as well. So that would be the instant you go to someone like Emersyn Jayne. In terms of the guys, oh my God, Caleb Valhalla. I think he's just Caleb is just absolutely killing it right now. And I think more people need to see Caleb Valhalla. Everywhere he goes, every promotion he wrestles with, he's so super popular with the crowd. His matches are always great. He's got his gimmick down. I'd love to see more people get eyes on Caleb Valhalla. He would be the guy. And I know he did particularly well at the Gut Check in Glasgow. So yeah, it would be great to see more eyes on Caleb. In terms of tag teams, that's a tough call. I would have to go with our tag team champions. I know they're not based in Scotland, but how long have the Kings of the North been around? How many championships have they held? How great would it be to see the Kings of the North mix up with someone like the Motor City Machine Guns? It would be fantastic matches. So I've got to stick with my tag team champions as the tag team champions. Caleb Valhalla, I think, and Emersyn Jayne.
Well, hey, fair picks all around. But let's just say it's a day of a show. Maybe it's bound for glory here in the Hydro because I don't want to travel far. Please don't do it down south. My money can only take so much. But let's say Scott D'Amore's got a pencil in his ear and is like, Alan, I'm struggling here. I got the guys you mentioned, Emersyn, Caleb, and your tag teams all, but who to put them against? I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling. Who do you put them against, Alan? Tell me, please. I'm only a man. I'm struggling.
They can be put up against anybody and put on a great match. That's the great thing about what we've been building over the past so many years now is bringing in people that we know and trust to put in the ring with absolutely anybody and put on a show stealing match. So I don't think you would have any issues. You can go, right, Caleb, you can go in with whoever. Emersyn go in with whoever, Kings of the North go in with whoever, and they'll have a barnstormer of a match.
Well, hey, I truly think Meltzer will be happy and give out the 5 stars. Like, I know it's not in the Tokyo Dome, but the Hydro is kind of like the same level, so give those 5 stars away. Very fine by that. But obviously, other stuff has been happening within our little scene as well. AEW All In as well was a hell of an event. I went down there for myself, and them coming back next year as well. I mean, I'm truly excited for that. But I want to know, Alan, you want to see maybe a Dynamite or Rampage or Collision up in Scotland just to give us a win?
I don't see why they wouldn't, because, there is such a massive wrestling fan base in Scotland. So I don't know why they wouldn't want to come to Scotland. I know it's the same when any time a company announces a UK tour and doesn't include Scotland on that, and then it's like, is it really a UK tour if you don't come to Scotland? So I think, there is such a thriving wrestling fan base in Scotland, hence why WWE come here a couple of times a year. Impact were here, TNA were here recently, so there would be definitely. I'm sure there would be a lot of people would be very happy to see them here.
Absolutely, and obviously when we last talked, the show hadn't happened yet as well, and I mean I truly loved it. But I want to know from yourself, and as like a wrestling promoter and being someone who puts on shows and just seeing what everything develops, and now seeing like this big company be able to draw over so many 80,000 odd people into Wembley Stadium, that's really got to reaffirm your decision. Like there is a love for this within the United Kingdom.
It's just about capturing that. Clearly, anytime you've got a massive company like AEW or WWE that people are watching on their television, online, religiously, they'll have a huge fan base. So when they come to the UK, they will draw absolutely thousands. And for us, as promoters of independent promotions, it's like, well, how do we capture some of that? How do we get ourselves in front of those people to say, hey, look, yeah, they may be on television, but the stuff that we're doing, certainly the wrestling side of stuff, the stuff that's in the ring, is just as entertaining, it's just as good as what you can see on the TV screens, and you don't need to be paying £50 for the cheapest ticket. You can pay 15 quid, you can pay £5 for a kid and come along and enjoy yourself just as much as going to some of these massive shows. So it's down to us as promoters to get that word out there and go, hey, look, our shows are just as good and just as entertaining.
I mean, absolutely as well. I mean, it's truly fascinating because obviously I've been to 2 Discovery shows and I've just seen the family environment, people having fun with their kids and just having that good night out feeling. So I want to know, Alan, let's go through some of the shows that have happened, since your last opinions. And I know you had one on September 30th in Livingston, which was a hell of a card in itself. You mentioned someone there, Caleb Valhalla versus Rob Stowe. I mean, I've had Rob on, hell of a guy with the good times and all that, but Caleb as well. Do you really think maybe Caleb Valhalla is going to be the breakout star in the UK scene in 2024?
I'd love to see it. I think everyone who's worked with him and every promotion he works with would love to see it because he's very entertaining. He's very solid when it comes to wrestling. He's getting better all the time. Like I say, he's got his gimmick down, and on top of that, he's just a genuinely lovely person. And these people are the ones you want to see succeed. And that's what I'm saying. More people, we just need to get more eyes on people like Caleb Valhalla because he's, everybody says it about them when they deal with him. He's an absolute star. You'll have seen it when you've been at Discovery events, how he can capture that crowd, with a skull chant or whatever it may be. But the look, the chant, everything. The pure strength of the man as well is very, very impressive. So, yeah, I'd love to see Caleb just get out there across the UK a bit more next year. I'd love to see promotions south of the border in England take a punt on Caleb and bring him down and put them in front of their crowds and just see what kind of reaction he gets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the man is absolutely an engagement. The man's got it. He's got the crowd. He's got in the very palm of his hand, and I can see big things coming from that guy indeed. But also, another match I was very interested about with this Livingston show was the Reckless Intent Heavyweight Championship being defended there. Now, before we talk about this match, can you tell me more about this title, Alan? Because I'm not too familiar with it.
Well, Reckless Intent is the promotion that was based in Livingston for many years and have been pivotal to keeping Discovery going over the years because we've worked very closely with them. When in the early days, we were hiring a ring and a crew from them. We worked extremely closely with them, and they went on a hiatus earlier last year. But we were keen to keep wrestling going in Livingston, to keep the crowds in Livingston there for Reckless when they eventually come back. And so for us, it was important just to protect the legacy of Reckless and protect the legacy of their champions. So it's a no-brainer for us if we are putting on events in Livingston until Reckless come back to have that Reckless name still out there for people to remember.
Oh, I mean, that's very compassionate of you, Alan, to have a company that's, taking some time away, but to still be in the foresight of fans, seeing it on the show and be like, oh, it's still there. And obviously, was it a hard thing to get it featured on the show, or was it just like, oh no, that's absolutely fine?
Not at all. No, it's an absolute no-brainer for us. It's the kind of least we can do in terms of, the amount of support that Reckless have provided us over now a decade to feature one or two championship matches of theirs on a show. It's a no-brainer because the people who come along to the Livingston shows are the people who are going to Reckless shows. So they know Reckless, they know the people of Reckless, they know the champions of Reckless. So it's an absolute no-brainer for us when we're doing those shows in Livingston to have the championships still there and still fought for.
Mm-hmm. Of course, hey, truly great to see as well. And obviously, I know a great part of these Discovery shows is the old raffle. I mean, it's an important part of it, but I want to know the story. What's with the whole color thing, right? I need to know. Look, I'm a part. I always love a good story, but I need to know the beginning. How did this all begin, Alan?
I would love to know. I would absolutely love to know. I have no idea. you know what it's like when you go to an event that people will pop for certain things, and then it just becomes a thing. You know, it never started out as being a thing, but then just randomly on one show when you're drawing the ticket and someone in the crowd chants, "What color is it?" Say the color, and the people, you know, I love the Discovery crowd. It's the best thing about doing what we do is just the reactions that we get from the crowd and how involved and into it they are. And when it's stuff like this, you know, for people who come into the event for the first time, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But for those who've been there, like event after event after event, it's their thing. And then quickly, you know, as you found out now, when you come along, people just join in. So, you know, anytime you draw the ticket for the raffle, everybody starts, you know, asking what the color is. You say the color, and then the crowd go crazy. So we're very fortunate to have the kind of the crowd that we do and the passionate following that we do have, because they're just the absolute best, and this is what makes it all worth it.
Right, absolutely. You know, the fans are the lifeblood of this industry, and having them go away enjoyment and having a memory in their mind that they'll hold on to of a show, it's truly great to see. But I'm sure there's obviously memories that you hold in your mind, Alan, maybe of something a fan said or done. And I want to know, give me your funniest or great fan interaction story.
Wow. Nothing in terms of, nothing immediately springs to mind in terms of is something that was funny, but in terms of the things that do stick in my mind are when people tell you about the tough times that they're going through, the struggles that they're having, and how what we're doing is providing them with an escape, and what we're doing is providing them with something to look forward to, something to get out of the house to go to. There are people who come to our wrestling events who come by themselves. They don't have wrestling fans in their close connection, their close groups, and their close circles, but they come along and they meet people, and they're surrounded by like-minded folk, and they just have the absolute best times. And for me, that's what always kind of sticks out, is when, you know, someone will send you a message or someone will pull you aside in an event and just tell you these things and feel like they can open up and just let you know about just how important it is to them that there is something like this, something as inclusive as this, that people can come along to. They don't have to worry about anything. They can just come along, take a few hours out of the day and just not think about anything that's going on outside that building. They can just be entertained for those few hours. And for me, anytime people are telling me those stories, those are the things that kind of have really stuck with me over the past decade.
Hey, I mean, it's like what I say, you know, the big companies may be like the fruit of the tree, but places like Discovery are the roots of it that build up this tree, and you just get to enjoy it. And look, honestly, guys, if you're watching, please support your local independents any way you can, because they are the roots of this business. Now, another show I'm going to talk about as well, which I attended, was the Friday Night Disco Party in Porty. Oh boy, what a show it was. I mean, they took a lot of guests of mine on the card as well, so I was like, yes, absolutely banging, love to see it. So I want to talk about a few of these matches that featured guests of the show. Caleb and Aspen versus the Good Times. Whoa, ho, ho. I mean, interesting way that this match concluded, but I mean, do you think maybe Monstrum and Stowe are destined for a tag title shot?
There's definitely, you know, what's happened between them is definitely not done between those two teams. You spoke about the Livingston show there. Both Monstrum and Stowe getting involved in Aspen and Caleb's business and their matches in Livingston. We've seen the coming together of Skull Brawl, you know, buddies now. You know, they started off 2023 as foes, and now they're, you know, just the absolute best of friends. And then you have the Good Times, who are determined to make an impact in Discovery. You know, they have made an impact. You know, they cost Joe Henry his Y Division championship. They've got involved in Caleb and Aspen's business. And you saw there in Portobello how that match ended. Means there wasn't a conclusive result there. So, and I think everybody wants to see, actually, I want to see one team win this. I don't want this to end as a no contest. It's very similar to when Aspen and Caleb fought at the start of 2023. You know, they just battered each other to the point that the rest just had to stop the match. And the entire crowd at the O2 were just chanting, let them fight, let them fight. And it'll be the same with this one now, because people will want to see the good times and Skull Brawl knock lumps out of each other. So I don't think that one's done. I think there's more life in that yet. And we're talking about tag teams within Discovery and trying to establish tag teams in Discovery. You've now got Skull Brawl who are now on the same page, and you've got the coming together of Rob Stowe and Monstrum. Two massive guys led by Manival as well. So I think it's quite exciting to see what happens with both those teams going into this year.
Ooh, it makes me think, will 2024 be the good times for Discovery, or will Skull Brawl emerge as victors? I mean, hey, I'm excited to see myself. But another one I want to talk about, Judas Gray versus someone you've highly mentioned before, Emersyn Jayne. I mean, damn, what a match. I mean, it was absolutely slobber knocker between these two. I mean,
yeah, and it opened the show as well. And, what you tend to find with shows is the opening match tends to set the pace for the rest of the card, the rest of the night. And when I was sitting there just watching Judas and Emersyn doing what they do, I was just like, oh boy, the rest of the card is going to have some job following this. That was one hell of a way to open the event. And I know they've been keen to step in the ring with one another. They train together. Emersyn trains Judas. They know all about each other, so it was always going to be a pretty special matchup. And it proved that way. As far as opening contests go, I don't think you can get much better than that.
No, I mean, hey, it was truly a setter for the whole show as well. But obviously, being an intergender match as well I find it's a very great match type, and I've had many wrestlers come on and say, we like these match types. We like to showcase these sort of things. And I want to know from yourself, intergender wrestling, do you think maybe it should be more accepted maybe in 2024 as something that you can expect all around?
I think you are seeing more of it. I think you're seeing it everywhere. At the moment, when you've got people like Emersyn Jayne, who was spoken about, she was wrestling Joey Janela in GCW, and I think a lot of it comes down to the actual match itself in terms of, being a relatively kind of fair matchup. Can this person go toe to toe with this person? And when you look at Judas and you look at Emersyn, you go, absolutely, why not? So I think it just comes down to the individuals involved. We've had intergender tag matches in Discovery in the past. So again, and we've had Session Moth versus Gene Munny in Discovery in the past as well. So again, I think it ultimately just comes down to the individuals involved in that matchup, and whether or not it comes down to whether people see this as a kind of believable contest or not. I think that's what a lot of it comes down to.
No, absolutely as well. I mean, it shows that they can put on a banger match that everyone can truly love, because the crowd were loving it as well. And you mentioned Gene Munny there, your wide division champion against Andy Roberts. Where do I start with? God damn.
Yeah. Those guys know how to do main event, and there are particular guys and girls on the roster where you go, right, I need to put on a main event. I need something. When you talk about how the card opened with Judas versus Emersyn, how do we top that? What do we go home with? And that's the match. That's why the main event is so important. It's because this is what people go home with. This is at the end of the night. This is at the end of the day. And this is the match that people are going to go home with and be like, right, okay, it's been topped off in the right way. It's people you can trust to put on what we consider a main event style matchup, that everything builds towards this match. And this is the match that sends people home. And, people like Andy and Gene, massive trust in it, because they've done every time you put them in those spots, they deliver. And you talk about Gene Munny, the progression of Gene Munny since his debut in Discovery to what he's doing now. He came in as part of the Buffet Club, as part of this tag team. A lot of comedy involved, even up until when he started going singles. There was a lot of comedy style involved in what he did, to what he's doing now in Discovery in terms of main eventing, carrying that Y Division championship. The transformation in Gene Munny to become a main event wrestler. And he's always had that within him in terms of the ability to wrestle that style. And Andy Roberts has been there. He's been there. He's done it. Features in main events absolutely everywhere. And it takes a special kind of talent for you to go, right, okay, who's going to be main event? And no brainer, could put him in the main event, and I know they're going to deliver.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Gene getting the win as well. I surprised myself. I would thought Andy had it there for a couple of seconds. And he's on a run, Gene, honestly. So I want to know, Alan, if you could describe Gene Munny's current title reign with the Wide Division Championship in one single word. Uh-oh.
In one single word for Gene Munny title run, strong. This is a strong run. Obviously overcoming Joe Hendry, and I think that's something that might stick in his mind a little bit. It's just how he won the championship. I'm sure it's not the way he wanted to win a championship in terms of Joe Hendry being disqualified, hence the title changed hands because of Good Times' involvement. So I'm sure the way he won the championship will be something that kind of sticks in his mind and something that he'll want to fix himself, to get some sort of kind of exclamation marks at the end of that strong title reign. But he beat Big Damo in the summer, in a clean one-on-one contest. He beat Zach Dynamite, who I think is another one. When I speak about Caleb Valhalla, Zach Dynamite is another person who there needs to be more eyes on. And that was a great contest between Zach and Gene Munny. And then he beat Andy Roberts in the way he beat Andy Roberts. So, he's on this run where he's beating some of the biggest guys you're putting in front of him. And he's winning these contests clean. So he's building up a full head of steam where you think, well, who can actually come in now and stop him? Because Big Damo couldn't, Andy Roberts couldn't, Zach Dynamite couldn't. Who can? And I think that's what's going to be exciting about 2024.
I think strong.
Excuse me.
Strong will definitely be the word for Gene Munny in 2024, and we'll get you some Lemsip afterwards, Alan.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
You will get that taken care of. But one match on this whole show that I really, 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 really need to talk about: Daisy Jenkins versus Kasey for the Discovery Wrestling Women's Championship. I've had Daisy on the show twice, and seeing everything she's done last year as well. Honestly, there's moments in the show where I'm trying to record the entrances and moves and all that, just for nice social stuff. But this phone was in pocket. I was up and I was so ready for Daisy to win this. But I honestly thought it was there at the moment. But Kasey, still the strong championship that she is and winning. What do you think 2024 will bring for Kasey and Daisy, Alan?
Well, I think 2023 was a big year for Daisy. How much traveling she's been doing in terms of getting out there wrestling, not just in the UK, but getting, wrestling abroad as well. And she is someone who's just coming and hit the ground running and has taken every opportunity with both hands, shown everybody exactly what she can do. And everybody's very excited to see what the kind of future brings. She's one of the stars that's coming out of Andy Roberts' school. And she's just phenomenal. Someone who has been around just for a couple of years to be doing what she's doing, to be running our women's champion extremely close as well. It was a championship shot well earned. She eliminated Session Moth in the Disco Derby. She beat Emersyn Jayne in Livingston. And to become so close to winning that championship says a lot about Daisy, because we all know how great Kasey is. Kasey's been one of the top wrestling talents in the UK for so many years now. And this championship run that she's on, more than 2 years, she's had the women's championship in Discovery. Big year for her last year, beating the likes of Nina Samuels, who'd waited months or waited years to get her shot at the championship, having beaten Emersyn Jayne earlier in the year as well. So it solidified her kind of reign to have victories over Emersyn, Nina Samuels, Daisy Jenkins last year. So I think it'll take a lot for someone to take that championship away from Kasey. More than 2 years as a champion. As we know in Discovery, once you're the champion, there's no kind of hot potatoes. It takes a huge effort to end someone's title reign. We're kind of known for these lengthy title runs. So I think Kasey having that championship for so long, it will take I'll take a massive effort from someone to take that away from her.
Yeah, and who knows what that individual will be that will finally end the reign of Kasey. But I want to propose the same question that I mentioned about Gene for Kasey. One word to describe her title reign.
One word to describe Kasey's title reign, I would say dominant.
Ooh, that's a word.
She's been a dominant champion. Like if you've held that championship for 2 years, over 2 years, and you've beaten the very best that's been put in front of you, and doing it in the way that she's won those matches as well. She's been a dominant champion.
Yeah, move over, Roman Reigns. The real tribal chief is entering the scene now. You can go rest. Now, there is one thing I want to propose to you, Alan, as well. When you were on last time, you mentioned about Cody Rhodes and the whole Ring of Honor Championship being a surprise title match as well. Hell of a thing to have. The Ring of Honor Championship is now a part of this AEW Continental Crown with the New Japan Strong and the Continental Championship. I want to know from yourself, obviously as a fan, to see this title that was defended in your company at the time now being in a triple crown. Do you think that's like a good move, or do you think it's like this is interesting?
I'll have to be absolutely honest with you. I haven't been keeping up to date with that because we've had so much focus on what we've been doing here. But I think any promotion that wants to have its title recognized as a title that means something, to put it on a bigger kind of pedestal, to have more eyes on it, to be a championship that people want to win and have as part of their kind of legacy. If that's the way they think that can be done to elevate that championship, then all the best with it. But like I say, I haven't been keeping up to date with my wrestling of late.
Aye, fair dues. We're all busy people. There's only so many hours in the day to watch all the wrestling when we have all our busy lives to attend to as well. Things happen. But obviously, that kind of Triple Crown concept has intrigued me, and I want to propose a situation for you, my friend. Let's say you could have the Y Division Championship being a part of the UK crown, the Triple Crown, and you could pick 2 other promotions to be a part of this crown. Which 2 UK promotions would you want to be a part of this United Kingdom Discovery Triple Crown?
Again, a tough one. There's so many great promotions across the UK. I think if you were doing a Triple Crown across the UK, you would probably want to have a proper UK championship. That is, if it's a Triple Crown, one from Scotland, one from England, perhaps one from Northern Ireland or Ireland. So you would probably be looking at Rev Pro and then OTT, as one championship from each kind of country. Obviously, OTT do Ireland and Northern Ireland. You've got Rev Pro down in England. You've got ourselves in Edinburgh. So if there was a Triple Crown to represent the UK that had to involve us, then that would be it.
Y Division, OTT, and Rev Pro. Yeah, I'm seeing it now. The best way to celebrate that would be a Camden Ale, a Guinness, and a Scotch. Just you have to neck all 3 and then you're champion. Yeah, I might try and enter that. I've got a strong iron lung as well. But Alan, as well, as we mentioned, new year, new era, new adventures for us all. And I know Discovery have announced, a new Friday night disco at Portobello Town Hall, February 9th. And on the post on the Instagram, it says a new era for Discovery begins on February 9th. Championships will be defended. A new title will be unveiled via Portobello Town Hall on February 9th, but start of something new. So first of all, Aaron, I need to ask, this something new, what can fans expect from this new era?
Well, I think what they can expect is a lot of fresh excitement, a lot of new faces, a lot of the new championship, which you refer to. All the details of that championship will be revealed on February 9th. But a lot of people have been asking us for years to add another championship to our collection, because obviously we've got a Y Division Championship, which is seen as our kind of main event, kind of heavyweight championship. We've got the Women's Championship, which we've spoken about. We've got the Tag Team Championships, which were a long time in the making as well. And people are looking for something else. They're looking for us to add something else to that. So that is extremely exciting. All the plans for that are, I think fans will get a real kick of what's being planned for that championship. As we said at the start about promotions trying to be innovative or trying to do original things, you're going to see a lot more of that going into this year. You're going to see a lot more kind of originality in terms of concepts, in terms of just changing the way things happen. So I think, we've been Discovery launched in 2014. It's been 10 years since Discovery launched, and we've been building. We've got this solid foundation. We've got this great fan base. We've got an incredible core roster, and it's now time to build on that and bring a lot of kind of new excitement to what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, this new title, that's 20 quid sliding into the metaverse. Give me details. Come on. Look, it's a nice crisp 20.
All I can say is we talk about the strong core roster in Discovery. There's a lot of incredible talent in Discovery who all want something to fight for, and this will be something that they all want to fight for. And I can't really say much more than that. It'll be on the day, on the night, that you'll get the details. And again, I'll just keep teasing it out because people just need to buy tickets and to be there for the start of the next journey of Discovery.
I'm empty, so I guess that's what we're getting, folks. Right, unless he accepts nectar points, I can get more, but I need those from my foodie shop. That's something I need. But obviously, with this Friday Night Disco as well, coming on February 9th, at the moment, we've got 2 matches announced. Joe Hendry versus Will Cruz. Oh, boy, Joe Hendry. Say his name and he will appear. Obviously, former Wide Division champion. What does it mean to see Joe back in Discovery?
Well, Joe has been Discovery since day one. The very first event of Discovery at Meadowbank Sports Centre. And he was involved in a tag team match against Crime Time. And so Joe is Discovery day one, and he's the OG of Discovery. He's one of, if you look at the cards that we produce, there's quite a few people who were there on day one that are still there in Discovery. So Joe is kind of central to Discovery. He's the OG. And the match with Will Cruz will be special. For anyone that's witnessed Will Cruz, he's had a few appearances in Discovery, and every time he's been in Discovery, the comments after the event are like, please bring Will Cruz back, because he brings something so different to anybody else. And a big guy who moves like he does, you fear for whoever's in the ring with him. He had an absolute stormer of a match with Caleb Valhalla, and he's just... And with Gene Munny, he's sensational. Will Cruz, we love Will Cruz. Very scary individual in that ring. But everybody always asks for Will Cruz to come back. And if you're looking for what would be classed as a heavyweight contest, Will Cruz, Joe Hendry, that's an absolute belter of a heavyweight match.
Absolutely, Alan. I mean, I've seen Joe Hendry online from his old ICW days and what he's doing in TNA as well, and I can't wait to see him in person live. That is going to be an experience in itself. But another match, you mentioned Kasey being dominant. Well, this is going to be a superior force she's meeting, cashing in her Disco Derby opportunity. Emersyn Jayne versus Kasey. Oh, I mean, you've highly praised Kasey, you've highly praised Emersyn Jayne. I feel like could this be the moment? Is this where the dominant champion falls to a superior force?
I mean, for me, this is a main event match. There's a story here between Kasey and Emersyn. They've got huge amounts of respect for each other. I know that. And we saw their matchup from February last year. And that was on a night where Emersyn had already defeated Rio earlier in the evening before then facing Kasey. So it was a second match that evening. So they meet next month under very different circumstances. And I'm intrigued. I'm excited to see what happens in this. But for me, this is a main event matchup. We talked about Gene Munny and Andy Roberts from November, and I'm talking about people you can trust to go in a main event and absolutely deliver and bring the house down. Mm-hmm. These guys will do that. Emersyn and Kasey will absolutely bring the house down. That match alone is worth the admission. It's just, you know, they've both been absolutely killing it, and this is what it comes to. This is where these forces collide at Portobello, and I'm excited to see what happens, what they pull off. You know, I think it was Billy at the Scottish Wrestling Network said it best, that Gene Munny will be breathing a sigh of relief that Emersyn Jayne's decided to use her Disco Derby win to go after Kasey's championship rather than Gene Munny's championship, because, you know, Emerson's hungry to win gold and to become a 2-time women's champion, whereas Kasey just wants to keep that reign going and going and going. It's over 2 years now. Well, you know, we'll see if she can get to 3.
Hey, can Emersyn Jayne finish the story? Well, folks, you'll have to buy a ticket to February 9th and find out. But as well, another great opportunity that's coming out of Discovery, you know, Discovery Wrestling Academy Edinburgh. So I need to talk about this. You know, like, first of all, you know, what is this opportunity? What can it provide to people? And, you know, how did this all come about as well?
Well, this is very much Joe Hendry's baby in terms of the academy. You know, he's had his training school through in Bells Hill. He's been running classes in Edinburgh on a Sunday, but he's for years has wanted to have this training facility in Edinburgh. And it's happening, you know, it's now happening. It's opening this month. It opens with a seminar from Speedball Mike Bailey, and, you know, you've seen the graphics already put out there in terms of Joe Hendry, Aspen Faith, Emersyn Jayne, you know, the experience that those 3 bring to coaching, having traveled as far as they have traveled within wrestling, you know, they're fantastic people to learn from. And, you know, I know Joe already has this kind of strong base of trainees who are all now breaking through into the scene. You know, your Judas Gray, your Monstrum, your Manival, your Rob Stowe, you know, so many more who are now kind of regulars on Discovery events, who are now working south of the border. They're working over Scotland as well. So, you know, I think if you look at the level of talent that has already come out of his school, you know, bringing that through to Edinburgh, it'll be exciting to see any new talents that come out of his academy.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you names mentioned there that I've had on the show, and they are exceptional talent. So obviously, you know, if you want to develop yourself or start the journey of a professional wrestler, that Discovery Wrestling Academy will be absolutely up your alley. But Alan, my friend, we're coming to the end of our time here, and I really appreciate you coming back to the Soul Sessions. So I want to finish up with one thing. The year's just started. So many things could happen down the line in these 12 months. So I want to ask, if you could see one thing happen within Discovery Wrestling or to Discovery Wrestling, what would that thing be and why?
I would love to see Discovery back in somewhere like the O2, the big main hall of the O2, where we've had our biggest events in the past, when we had the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes. You know, we've had these huge names at Discovery in the past when we've gone to the O2 Academy. I would love for something like that to happen again to Discovery this year. I'd love for there to be something absolutely huge, because this is the 10th year of Discovery, and I think, you know, I get the sense that there's a lot changing within Scottish wrestling, within UK wrestling just now, and I think Discovery can be one of the UK promotions this year. I think it's time for Discovery to kick on. As I said, we've spent 10 years building a really kind of solid foundation, having this great fan base that we do, and it's now about how do you go to that next level, and having the people in place to take you to that next level. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement around that this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, but for me, I'd love to see just a huge 10th birthday bash later in the year, somewhere massive.
Hey, as long as we get the flyers out, poppers and all that, and confetti, let's avoid the cake. Ian Skinner, bad incident with cake. We don't need the completion of that. But Alan Smith of Discovery Wrestling, my friend, welcome back, and thank you for coming back. Now, folks, as well, if you want to see this show on February 9th, I will include a link to the Instagram, the website, as well a link to the Discovery Wrestling Academy. click all these, find out, and spend some money and enjoy some time at the disco. Well, Alan, thank you, my friend, for coming back. Now, folks, I would say the whole YouTuber stick, but come on, look, it's 2024. YouTube's been around for like donkeys. I ain't gonna bother saying it. I actually am not going to insult your intelligence. I think you know what to do. Well, folks, remember, stay well and stay home.